Hey there, it's Medusa, and I'm recording this from my student accommodation, so apologies about the audio quality. So, I've just finished Daredevil Born Again Season 2, and I have a lot of thoughts, mainly because, I was just scrolling through social media and I came across a clip from the original 3 season show on Netflix, and just how good it was, just that tiny little, like, 2 minute clip of just conversation and dialogue that was so good, and it just made me like, oh, it just made me sad. So last season, I was expecting it to be way worse. It wasn't good by any means, but I was expecting, after seeing the way that Disney Plus kind of handled Daredevil's character in She-Hulk. I mean, I know that's a comedy show or whatever. I did not like She-Hulk as a show. I thought it was terrible. But I get it, it's a comedy, but I still was like, oh, I don't really like that. About the way they portrayed Daredevil in the suit and stuff, and I didn't like all the little kind of ridiculous CGI. Um, so it was anything from what I kind of anticipated was going to be a step up, which meant that season 1 for me was a lot better than I expected, but it was by no means good. And I have so many of the same complaints, only tenfold, like from this next season. So another thing I want to say first of all is I think all the actors are fantastic in this, and I have no hate towards them. And so when I criticize a character, I am absolutely not criticizing the actor or actress who's behind it, because I think everyone did a fine job. They were just given absolutely nothing to work with. So I'm gonna just go through all the characters really, because I feel like that's the best way to talk about it. Because this like season, there's not really much to discuss about what happened. I feel, honestly, the big kind of dramatic thing was like a gun shipment in a boat that sunk. That was sunk by the captain because Daredevil was on board, and it was all this drama. Like, I wasn't, of all the plot points, that was probably the least interesting to me out of any plot point that could have possibly have been. So another thing just before I start as well, the fact that, like, Punisher didn't show up, the fact that Spider-Man didn't show up, because it's such a, like, the way that they've done it, this is the problem, right? In the Netflix show, at least, there was some semblance of locality. It was Hell's Kitchen, it was New York, but you could kind of see why Daredevil would, do his bit, and maybe the Avengers or whatever wouldn't get involved. Like, you could see how, you could see that. But this is like a full-on, like, warfare in New York, and there's not a single Avenger that stops by and says, this doesn't seem right. Anyway, I would like to just go through the characters. BB. What is the point? I just don't care about BB as a character. Again, no hate on the actor. She does a great job, but I just don't care about BB as a character. Because she's Ben Urich's niece, but Ben Urich never once mentioned her, to my knowledge, and so, like, you can't just give, like, a random family member and expect me to care when, that's just ridiculous. Cherry, I mean, I barely, like, what was the point of Cherry? I know he's, like, the cop, but, like, I don't know how he met Matt. If he was in the original series, I don't remember him. I don't think he was, though. I just find him I don't know who he is, and I don't really care. So, Officer Powell as well is the most boring, like, bad guy I think I could ever even imagine. He is, like, he's not bad enough to be interesting. He's not, like, cruel or insane enough to be interesting. He's also not good enough or complex enough to be, like, an interesting villain in that way as well. He is just an annoying, irritating person that for some reason Fisk trusts, and I have no idea why. He doesn't really show great intellectual promise. He doesn't show necessarily psychotic loyalty, but even Fisk, he wouldn't just trust someone that was loyal, he'd trust someone that was decent. Anyway, now we get on to Buck. I just don't really like Buck. Just not interested, to be honest. I'm just not interested in Buck. And also, who's the other one? Daniel. So Daniel is killed by Buck for zero reason. Now, I know why Buck would have killed Daniel for entering that building and saying that BB wasn't coming, he wasn't going to betray his friend. I don't know why Daniel did walk in that building, though. Like, there was no scenario. Like he knew that Buck would not be happy and would just kill him. Like, there was no way that they would be like, right, yeah, this makes perfect sense. They had a perfect opportunity, him and BB, just to go off. And you know what? See if they just said, right, we're going to go off into the sunset and never ever come back. I would have weirdly kind of liked that storyline more than them having any involvement in the rest of the show. But obviously, Daniel's dead. But again, what a waste of a character. Not the most interesting character anyway, but what a waste anyway. So, and then on to, oh, who's next? So, Bullseye. I mean, it's a bit of a disappointment the way they use Bullseye in this and in the first one. But I mean, ultimately there was some decent scenes. But again, I mean, it is kind of just ridiculous how he's killed so many people and then he's just kind of wandered about. And anyway, never mind. Um, and let's go on to Fisk. So for Fisk, I have no idea why the citizens of New York voted for him again. Not a logical reason why I could see them choosing Mayor Fisk over any other candidate for mayor. Um, so yeah, so Fisk being a mayor, whatever. But what's also just ridiculous, I think, about his character this season is he loses Vanessa. Vanessa's killed, and his reaction is the most like tame reaction I would have ever expected. Again, the acting is nothing wrong with the acting. It's the way that the story is. It's the storyline. Like the fact that he loses Vanessa and his, he doesn't go off the rails. He's not kind of going crazy. That's what I would expect, because that's what he has shown to be throughout the series. He is shown to be a character who is obsessed with Vanessa to a point in which, it's like completely obsessive and all consuming, and that if something happens to her, he burns the world down. And that's that's kind of interesting aspect of their dynamic, and so the fact that when she dies, he's kind of just like maybe a bit more sad, but he doesn't really change his actions don't change, his like brutality doesn't change. Yeah, he kills the surgeon that operated on her, but to be honest, how annoying his dialogue was, I don't blame him. I was hoping he'd kill him because I was so annoyed. This is another thing, the immaturity to the dialogue, the random swears that are just, it's kind of like when it was kind of like when you're with your friends and you're like in primary school and you realize you can swear, so you kind of just swear every other word because you're like, yeah, I can swear, I can say all these bad words, and you're really excited, and then you realize, why would I do that? It's completely pointless, it's not exciting. But they haven't realized that. Like having, like, what is it? I think it was in the flashback episode, which I'll get onto later. But like, there's like this lawyer who says, like, who calls them some sort of name or whatever, and it's so unbelievably immature. The whole dialogue is just immature. The storyline is of no interest. There's not like some big, it's just an absolute nothing burger after nothing burger. So going on to the flashback, we get Foggy, and it just, why on earth they killed him off. I think there was some arrogance from the Disney Plus department, thinking, right, we'll just completely set a reset. But then they realised that actually that's the only thing, that's like, this is what made Daredevil the show good. It was the action. Nelson, Murdoch, and Page. That was the core three. That was the dynamic we liked. That's what the fans wanted, because they had such good, chemistry. It was like a team, and you wanted them to win in their cases, and then obviously the crime fighting aspect too. So the fact that they killed off Foggy, stupid decision, worst decision I think they could have made, to be completely honest. On to kind of the random people. There's so many, like, this is what annoys me as well. The people of New York are like a character, and they're all just the most, like, I don't care. There's a bunch of random people that are standing up for what's right, and I just don't care, because it makes no sense why this would even be happening in the first place. The fact that they also don't have guns, which, listen, why would they just bring like their fists? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. And so, like, I just don't get it. It was to show that they were good and Fisk is evil, but come on, let's be a bit more mature than that. So, like, on to kind of Karen. I like Karen. I've always liked Karen. She's always been one of my favourites. I what Karen does and says. And she's a journalist as well, so I've got a soft spot. But, like, she was fine in it, but I like the idea of Heather Glenn, after Muse's, assault, tried to kill her, that she turns kind of bad, she gets traumatized, and she becomes Lady Muse or New Muse, whatever they're going to call it. That is interesting. I mean, they didn't really do a very good job of kind of exploring it and exploring her feelings towards Matt, etc., but never mind. But on to Matt. So, well, I also feel like, why did we not see him and Karen get together? Because they, I mean, they were always going to get together in the original show, but then like, why not after how many, like, over a decade, showing them, reconnecting? Why the time jump? That just seemed just a waste of, episodes for like actual discussion about stuff that's not just Fisk is bad, you know. And like when they talk at the end at the Indian restaurant, which is kind of like their thing, it felt like them again. It felt like they were being their characters again. It didn't feel like it was like it just, I like that conversation. Obviously he gets arrested because for some reason Matt reveals he's Daredevil, which completely destroys so much of what makes or made Daredevil a good show, of like, and especially in, well, mainly in the Netflix show, of the fact that he's a lawyer by day and he's Daredevil by night. He cannot do that if if everyone knows he's Daredevil. And also, what annoyed me, there was like, again, that the scene in the Indian restaurant that has like fun dialogue, like, Matt and Karen are having like a nice conversation that feels like it's characters. It feels like it's like not just for like, oh, we need to talk about Wilson Fisk again. But like, also the fact that Matt was this calm about Karen being imprisoned, right? I could not believe it. And you know what it felt like? It felt like the most kind of, look, we're not sexist thing that they could possibly have done. I don't understand why he wasn't more concerned. I think that the writing was trying to be like, oh, Matt knows she can handle herself. There's no way in any universe that anyone, any decent boyfriend, would be happy, comfortable, would not try and get her out of that situation. Because she is not a superhero. She is a person, and she's someone that they all hate. Like, Fisk could have easily killed her in that first, in that first interaction in the prison. Someone could have easily, like, there was the fact that he seemed to think, oh no, they won't kill her until afterwards. There was no emotion behind that. I think it was written that way, like, oh yeah, we've got this. But that's not how he used to be. Like, and that's not growth. I think that's just poor writing. It's not like, oh, he realizes, because to be honest, in a world where like you've got Wilson Fisk killing people every 5 minutes, there is no way that the journalist who killed one of his friends is safe in his custody. And it felt like something that Disney does, where they have, they try and overcorrect, sexist tropes or whatever by being completely stupid. And I was just really irritated because, I mean, I'll never forget Disney, just saying, when I first saw Avengers, the first movie in cinemas with my mum, and I was like, 9 or 10 or something, and I wanted to get a Black Widow toy, and they didn't have them. They had Hawkeye in the set, but not Black Widow, because they didn't think girl toys would sell. So Disney can shove it with all their nonsense and their fake nonsense. But yeah, I just was shocked at the lack of kind of concern and emotion behind that, because then, like, what are you trying to say? Like, I don't understand. So there was so much, and that's not even the plot. The plot of the season is nothing. None of it matters. None of it's relevant. The only thing it's building up to is that Matt's now, everyone knows he's Daredevil. He's in prison with Officer Pebble, who, does anyone care? No. And like next season, they're going to obviously try and go to court and bring him back. But like, I just, there were so many good opportunities. I genuinely think if they'd given me 25 minutes and a ballpoint pen, I could have written out a better plot, and I could have written out better dialogue. And when a show is doing that, especially compared to how, like, I cannot stress, if you have just seen Born Again, please go and watch the original, like, 3 seasons. It is like chalk and cheese, the difference. Unbelievable. And it's just so disappointing because, like, you can tell the actors all care. They care so much. The fans all care. But there's a reason why fans aren't tuning in. Their ratings have dropped. The first season, everyone was expecting it to be terrible, so they kind of were like, oh, okay, we'll just keep going. It's not like overall it was better than I think people had anticipated, and because we'd missed Matt Murdock for so long, we kind of let other things slide. But this season, it's like you can really see the difference in quality between the writing of the the Netflix show and the Disney Plus show. And it's just it's appalling, really, to be honest. And the fact that like there's so many random characters that don't matter, there's so many, White Tiger, right? Angie. I do not care about Angie. Again, I think the actress did a fantastic job. She's fantastic. I've got no criticisms about her. The writing, I mean, why would I don't care about children when I'm watching Daredevil, you know? Like, I don't care about little child vigilantes. If I wanted to, like, watch a show about, kid vigilantes or whatever, I'd watch, like, I don't know, Teen Titans or something. I'd watch, that's not why I'm watching Daredevil. It's not for White Tiger. It's for Daredevil. And the fact that this little teenager who's about 14 or whatever is going around beating up people with her superpowers, and and Matt Murdock and Jessica Jones are completely fine with this. Nobody's like, oh, this isn't good. Like, Kristen, I've completely forgot about Kristen. Yeah, because the show did. I have no interest in Kristen. I think the actress is good. There was some decent scenes, but ultimately, like, Kristen is such an, like, this is what annoys me as well. They got rid of Foggy and then they replaced Foggy with Kristen without any character development, and then they expected us to care as if it was like Foggy. I don't care. Like, I don't think Matt cares. I don't think Kristen cares. Like, there's just what a disappointment from a fantastic Netflix show. And I say this, I'm always going to be a fan of Daredevil, but the Netflix show, it's I hope it's kind of all retconned and this Born Again never happened, because as eager as I was for season 4 of Daredevil, I was so excited for season 4. I wanted it the second that season 3 ended, with Nelson Murdoch Page and that getting wrote on that napkin. But this is what, sometimes it's be careful what you wish for, because it ended in a really good way. And now we've just got just nothing. And there's so little screen time for Daredevil. There's so little screen time to characters that we care about. And they just bring them in as like, I hated it. I was mad. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'm sorry for the most incoherent rant that has ever existed. I've just finished watching the thing. But thank you so much for watching.